Bert Sperling here, and this is a special presentation just for you because you're a member of Sperling's Best Places. We just did an interesting study, and I wanted to give you sort of an inside look at it. What we did was we may have pinpointed exactly where Amazon's going to be locating their new HQ2, their second headquarters, somewhere in North America. So what I'm going to do is show you the data and the analysis we used, the research that we did, give you my thoughts at the end, which might not agree with what a lot of other people are saying. And finally, we have some clues from Amazon itself, what their employees are saying, where their next headquarters might be. So let's dig into the concept behind our super ranking of Amazon's HQ2. But before we start, we'll say that this is from Sperling's Best Places, and you can find us on the web at bestplaces.net. Every day we're doing some remarkable things on bestplaces.net. If you haven't checked it out recently, please stop by and have a look. I'm really excited about what our team is doing. So, the concept behind this is that there's the wisdom of the masses. And in research, we use this information. We do sort of a study of other studies, and we use other studies together to create a super ranking or super study. It's called a meta-analysis, and it's sort of a collective wisdom of the masses. So what we're doing is putting these together into one large model and then finding what the common wisdom says, for better or for worse. This is not unlike what pundit Nate Silver does when he and his team at 538.com collect the results periodically of all the polls that are out there, weighting them carefully as far as their validity and past historical accuracy to create one large poll or one large forecast as to what an election is going to be like. So what we did was we took 19 of the most credible studies that are out there that were seeking to name the location of Amazon's new HQ2, and we put them into one large model, and we have the results. So this all started in early September when Amazon put out their RFP, or request for proposal. Now, normally a massive corporate investment or relocation like this is shrouded in secrecy because there are certain advantages to doing that. But instead, Amazon laid out a very detailed blueprint as to what they were looking for. They wanted a city of a certain size. They wanted to have proximity to the population center, an international airport, mass transit. They talked about having a cultural fit, cost of living, different size of office space that they were looking for. So this provided a real blueprint for people to follow when they were trying to figure out exactly what would fit Amazon's requirements. And this resulted in all sorts of interesting papers and studies. This one from REIS, a real estate investment company, that looked at it, and they produced some really nice charts for us to take a look at as to why New York City, San Francisco, District of Columbia should be near the top. And down at number 25, we see that they chose Richmond and Chattanooga on their list of places which might be considered. We also saw this from the Everest Group. They're involved in corporate relocation, and they had a different take on it that was very interesting. And they have again, a very good analysis looking at it from a different, more of a corporate real estate structured scenario, and so that was very valuable as well. We also collected some of the most insightful and informational material that was out there on the web from different media companies. And for instance, we have this one from Quartz. It's an online magazine, and they do some interesting analysis that culminates in a list of 25 or 27 places, starting with Salt Lake City, Denver, and Boston, down to New Orleans, Las Vegas, and Detroit at number 27. The New York Times, they have a feature called The Upshot, and Emily Badger and her team did a very nice job of filtering down, starting with the basic criteria, the metro areas that met Amazon's quite specific criteria. Then they went to find the areas where job growth was strong and where the labor pool was large and growing. Then the quality of life was high, where the commute and the transportation options were plentiful. And they ended up with their one pick, and they said Denver. Denver was theirs. That's the New York Times Upshot. The Wall Street Journal recently weighed in with their analysis. It was called Courting a Giant, and what they contributed were sort of very pretty but ultimately confusing series of charts, pie charts again. Really dislike those for lots of reasons, but hey, it's very pretty, so I guess that's a win. Anyway, they basically chose, they said Dallas was going to be their number one choice, their number one guess, followed by Boston, and then tied was DC, Washington, DC, Atlanta, and Seattle. I'm still confused why, if Amazon is looking to relocate or to locate their new HQ2 headquarters, that someone would pick Seattle as a possible choice. That just doesn't seem like you're listening very closely. But one thing I had really enjoyed was Lyman Stone. He's an economist with the U.S. Department of Agriculture. He has a blog called In a State of Migration. You should really check it out. I always enjoy his analysis, very thoughtful. And what Lyman is saying here is that the Amazon HQ2 move and buildup is going to be so extraordinarily huge and be so impactful on an area, it's going to basically change wherever it's located. And that there is no place that they have specified that is really going to be able to fulfill all their needs. So they're going to have to reshape whatever area they're going to go into. I agree with that absolutely. And I think that you should check out Lyman's writings. It's called In a State of Migration. Okay, so that's the research we gathered. Let's see how it all fits together in our model. Now there's a link to this actually live on the web where you can go and click onto it. It's a live Google worksheet and you can see exactly what we did. You can download it, play with it yourself, and let me know what you think. So basically what we have here along the columns, we have all of the different studies that we looked at. There were nearly 20 of them, and we see some from Slate, GeekWire, CityLab, Richard Florida. There's the Lyman Stone blog piece, New York Times, the Everest Group, the Upshot that we spoke about. Those are all there, and we also have links in row 3 to the actual story itself, so you can go just click on that and go right to the story and see the original work. So what we did is, as you remember, we talked about the Wall Street Journal piece, and it ranked Dallas as their first choice. So it receives 1 point. Now, in this scoring model, the lower the score is actually the better. So we're looking for the lowest number of points. And that way we don't have to transform their rankings, their top choice, their number one choice, into the best. So what we did was we took their scoring. For instance, here at Dallas, they chose Dallas as the number one pick. It's got 1 point. Boston is their second pick, number 2, 2 points. Atlanta, their number 3 choice, 3 points, and so on. And when a place wasn't mentioned at all, we gave that 50 points because the largest list in any of these rankings, I think it was Moody's, they had 45 cities, metro areas that they named. So what that meant was we needed to have something representing below that lowest. So we chose 50 points as one that wasn't even mentioned. So Philadelphia wasn't mentioned in the Wall Street Journal piece. It received 50 points. Raleigh was not mentioned. Pittsburgh was not mentioned. Toronto was not mentioned. So they all received 50 points. Now we saw that, let's say in the NBC study, Atlanta was their number 2 choice. It received 2 points and so on. Now, I realize that this is a very, very simple analysis. And we could have gotten, I think, a lot more complex. But the reality is that sometimes simpler is better. And we're not going to weight the different studies by their credibility either. We might have done that. I don't think it would make much difference. We have 19 different studies we're looking at. And I think the results are going to be pretty clear no matter how much torture we apply to the numbers. They're not going to confess anything special or unique other than this simple analysis. So what we looked at was what we came up with, looking at it, all the scores, we just did a simple averaging of the scores, and we found out that Atlanta was number 1. Then came Boston, Chicago, Washington, D.C., Austin, Texas, Dallas, Philadelphia, Denver, New York, Raleigh, and then Pittsburgh was number 11. And we have all of them, all 67 places that were ever mentioned in any of the studies, all the way down to Riverside, California, Vancouver, Canada, at the very, very end. Now, we also included some of the short methodology and an update because we had added the Wall Street Journal ranking that had come out as well. So anyway, the link is there on the website and also right below this video. So you can click on that and take a look, have a look, and tell me what you think. So let's talk about what I think where Amazon should locate its new HQ2. I completely agree with some of the analysis that this is going to be a huge transformational upheaval to whatever area that Amazon is going to choose to locate. The 50,000 workers that they're talking about is only the beginning. If you have a standard multiplier of the ratio of workers to population, if you have 50,000 workers, that's going to result in about 130,000 people that are going to support those workers, family members, and so on. So you're talking about a small town. You're talking about a town the size of roughly Savannah, Georgia, that's going to impact an area. Now, Amazon is also looking for a place that is affordable. They want a reasonable cost of living. But guess what? Every town, every city that is doing well right now, that is successful, that is economically viable, is already crowded and is already going to be very high priced. It's going to have a high cost of living, which is a penalty of its success. So if they're looking for a place that is really great and really livable, yet has a low cost of living, well, good luck to that, because basically everybody in the US is looking for that, and it's already been found, and those places are getting bid up. So what does that leave? Well, that leaves places that are going to be sort of outside the mainstream, so to speak. You're not going to be looking at the East Coast cities. You're going to be looking maybe more at the Midwest. You're going to be looking perhaps maybe the South, like Atlanta. Of course, Atlanta's the #1 pick by our super study and most of the experts out there already. However, here's a reality that I think that people have completely overlooked, and that is political realities. It's an unfortunate state of affairs, but politics has invaded every part of our society at this point. And Jeff Bezos, the president of Amazon, has made it his own views pretty clear. He owns the Washington Post, which is a progressive and left-leaning newspaper in the based in the, of course, Washington, D.C. And he has come out saying that restrictive laws involving gender and such are not good for Amazon employees. Now, to me, it's very, very hard to imagine him, say, locating in a state like Texas and having to work with conservative Senator Ted Cruz and looking for common ground with, say, the Tea Party faction. So I think that leaves out a large chunk of the country if you realize that Mr. Bezos does not want to saddle his company to a state that might be have ideological concerns that don't align with his company and Amazon employees. So I think that's a reality that has been ignored, but is very much in the mind of Amazon. The other thing is that this is going to completely overwhelm a city of any size. It's going to make it more congested. It's going to make it much less of what Amazon is looking for. So here is my thought. Amazon should, yes, get near a major metro area that they're interested in, but they should create their own city. And this city can be whatever they want to make it. It could be a city of about 250,000 ultimately. And it is going to, if you can imagine this, they don't have to deal with existing land or infrastructure. The commute time can be next to nothing. It can be basically a remarkable, almost like a sort of work-life utopia. If you can imagine where these, you can have living and housing coexisting with office buildings. Traffic could be almost, say, non-existent because the residences or the housing can be located next to the buildings, which can be distributed over a wider area. You could have smart streets by having sensors built into it. It could be a test bed for drone deliveries and other Amazon innovations. Urban planners would love to have the opportunity to build a city from scratch, and this provides an amazing, unique opportunity. So my thought is to build this city somewhere outside of a major metro area. You don't have to worry about the commute. You don't have to worry about a higher cost of living. And best of all, you don't have to worry about working within an infrastructure that's already there and trying to make that work. You can start from scratch. It would be much easier and much less expensive to build from the ground up something brand new. So here's my thoughts. I have two main areas that I think would be perfect for this. Number one, we can go ahead and look at the, say, go from Boston down to, say, New Haven, somewhere outside of Boston to New Haven, and this would be in the more, I wouldn't say it's exactly rural areas, but these are less populated areas somewhere in New England along this line. It would be a little bit outside of, be cut across some of Rhode Island and Connecticut and Massachusetts. I think it has great infrastructure, and you get away from some of the high cost of housing and living, by being outside of the cities themselves. There's no reason to be actually in the city. The other area I'm thinking about, and this is my first choice, the Washington, D.C. area. It's already been clear that Jeff Bezos likes this area. He's bought a house, which is, I believe, the largest or the largest home in the Washington, D.C. area. He's taken as a home. He has his newspaper there as well, the Washington Post. It is the seat of our political power. This would make, I think, a remarkable statement by being in the area. So I would say in the Washington, D.C. area, but it would be west of town. And in fact, if you look west of the Washington, D.C. area, you find the Dulles Airport. So there's your major airport hub that you could have by locating west of there, out towards Herndon, Sperling, Chantilly, and those areas. So if I was going to say to Amazon, this is where you should locate HQ2, this is what I'm saying. I'm saying you should locate west of Washington, D.C., out around the Dulles Airport. And I think you'll have everything you need to create your own city, which will be truly remarkable, transformative, and it will get away from the gridlock of the inner city and perhaps provide a new paradigm for living and working in a new way. Okay, so let's recap what we just learned. We did a super study, a meta-analysis, which combined the results of 19 different analysis, research papers, rankings, listings, trying to find where Amazon's going to be locating their new HQ2 second headquarters. And what we found was A, B, C, D: Atlanta, Boston, Chicago, and Washington, D.C. Now, I think these are all credible choices, and they make a lot of sense, but I don't think it's going to be in any one of these cities. And if Amazon really wants to be smart, innovative, bold, and get exactly what they're looking for, they're going to have to create their own city or town located outside one of these major metro areas. My top choices are either the Boston, New Haven sort of area between those, also outside of Rhode Island, somewhere outside of that in New England, or my number one choice is west of Washington, D.C., out around the Dulles Airport. So that's it. Oh, there's one more thing I promised you, and that is what they're saying in Amazon headquarters. This is what the employees are hearing as the inside contender for Amazon's HQ2, Chicago. So that's the rumor around Amazon headquarters today. Chicago has the inside track. Anyway, this is Bert Sperling. Thanks for watching, and check us out at bestplaces.net.